There's a lot of smoke in there.
Yes. Undercoating.
Whew.
I know. Thumbs up.
So you having fun on this?
Yeah. I like cars that are rusty.
Yeah.
Anybody can fix a rust hole that big in a car. I like cars that have a rust hole like the size of the whole car, so it's only like part of the roof. Like that's a challenge.
Well, we've had several of those. People have brought us a roof on a chassis and said, "Can you build me a car?"
I can build you whatever you want. Can you write me a check? Better yet, I take cash.
Better yet, this is a customer who actually knows how
What
to
it
fix a charger.
Yeah, he knows how to do it. Proper parts, proper everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was telling me this is a, I think I said it in one of the other videos, it's actually a numbers matching RT car.
Yeah.
440. He doesn't have the correct engine, but he does have a 440. But he doesn't care. I mean, it's this car is going to stay in the family, he said, forever. He'll give it to one of his sons. It's not...
Cool.
He's not worried if the engine doesn't match. At least he's putting a correct engine in it.
Yeah.
That's for the car.
Somebody had asked in another video why we weren't blasting it, and you told me the answer, but maybe put it on this video.
Well, it's getting all new trunk pans. Trunk lid, hood, doors, fenders, blasted. So there, that's done. Quarter panels are going to be new. No point blasting them, right?
Pretty obvious.
So, I mean, quarter panel's new, whole trunk pan is new. The front end, the front inner fenders and all that, you can look, they're original paint, they are rust free. I replaced the one that wasn't. So, what areas need blasting? We have a spot blaster here, we'll do. But
and also the underneath of the car.
Yeah, the underneath of the car, the floors inside are still the original paint, and I think somebody had said something about, I bet you they're full of holes if you start hitting with a hammer. They're not, they're solid. I mean, I make sure of it, right?
Yeah.
So, for what little blasting this thing needs, you know, I'll do it with a spot blaster in the corner, but for what's left, if we're replacing all the quarters and that, the roof, just sand it with the sander. Why would I bother? You know why? Because I just
Who
don't
did that big roof?
Yeah, look at it.
Who sanded that big roof?
You did.
Woohoo!
Because why do I want to blast something like that and just have all that sand and bullshit around? But don't get me wrong, we do blast a lot of stuff that comes here.
Oh yeah.
It's not that we don't, it's just certain things I pick and choose what I'm going to blast and what I'm not going to blast. And on this car, because so much of it's being replaced, the only thing you'd really get blasted if we took it to the blasters right now, they would, you couldn't really blast the roof anyway, they'd probably dent it, so you'd be doing all the floorboards in and out, the front fenders inside, which I'm going to do here.
Yeah.
So that's it. I mean, even this got replaced, right?
Yeah.
So
there was really nothing left to blast.
Yeah, but I get what he was saying. He was asking a good question. Why would you? A lot of people would take a car like this before they start, and they would blast it, and then bring it back and see what's left of it.
Yeah.
And then they would either start or not start.
Now we noticed yesterday that there was holes down here for a vinyl top, and we were wondering if it was going back a vinyl top because the top was actually painted. Did you get an answer from the owner?
I remember him saying he was going to put the vinyl top on.
Okay, so we don't need to weld those holes up.
No.
Cool.
I do remember him saying that. So, and it's going the color that's on the, it's in the front end there, whatever that, I don't know the name of that color, whatever you see there. It's going the original color, which most people.
This kind of rusty red?
Yeah, most people would do that.
Coppery red?
I like the fact he's doing that, because what do people do with these cars? They paint
Black.
them blue, black, or fucking red. And I'm sorry if I insulted anyone out there. I don't mean you have a bad car. I'm just saying, they do the typical. I'm starting to like people now that do the colors that are kind of different and unique.
That's a really nice copper, actually.
It's gorgeous.
It doesn't show up very well on the camera, but it's really pretty in person. It's got metallic in it, too.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we painted our 66 cab on the inside there last night.
I'll go show that.
You know, I got started.
This one's going blue with a white roof, yeah? And the white stripe in the middle of the box?
No white stripe, no side, it doesn't have any side.
Oh, okay, so it's just a white roof, that's it.
White roof.
Okay, so this is the blue. It is very, very pretty. And I don't know if you can tell in this light, but it's got a lot of metallic in it. But painted the inside and all the jams on the dash. It looks black in some lights. What, you start hammering so that nobody can hear me on the video now?
Green lips.
Yeah. Except the camera's on the truck. You've showed this truck already, yeah?
Yes, I have. I've got the piece up on top done.
Oh yeah.
And I welded up stake pocket holes, and he had a bunch of holes in the box. I did that.
Okay, so stake pocket holes filled. Holes in the box. Filled. And there is that piece that Rick was showing you on the last video about all the rust in behind and everything. So they actually reproduced this panel here, and the customer had supplied that, yeah? Rick? Yeah. So he brought us that panel, but Rick did all the welding and fabrication inside of that as well, and also on the drip rail. I don't know, I can't see, it's too high, but hopefully the camera caught that part of it. Up there, and there was pieces in the corners here, and on the other side too that were all rusted out that Rick fabricated. Look at that, I should have got you to weld on my Merc, it would have looked way better. So there, that's all done. All back together. You can see from the side it's all nice and even and straight. So yeah, so what else you got to say? Anything else going on in the shop? Nothing? Okay, well I guess we'll sign off then.
Nothing's going on in the shop.
No, nothing.
Just working.
We're boring.
We're boring.
Just shop update after shop update.
Yeah, that's all it is, I know. They all want to see how we do it as we do it. And you know what, I remember these guys, they asked me, like somebody wrote in and said, Rick, I'd really like to see how you take care of the rust up on that roof inside there on that pickup. And the next thing you know, I had it well done. I was thinking about it and I thought afterwards, oh fuck, somebody asked me about that. You just, we're not a TV show, right? We don't have a crew roaming around here. I mean, I can't help the camera. Anyway, what I did there was I cut the rust out, which a guy, I can't remember who it was that wrote in, I cut the rust out of there, you've probably seen it. The pieces that I made inside, I sprayed them with my weld-through primer, because you can't just slide bare metal up in there and leave it bare metal. But when I got all the rust cut out in there, I got in there the best I could with a wire wheel on a drill. I didn't want to start blasting because all that sand's going to be shooting up in the roof of the cab. That shit's going to be everywhere, right? Like who cuts a section of a roof out and starts blasting on the underskin? I didn't do that. So I cut it out on the truck there and I got in there with a wire wheel, did the best I could of a wire wheel, and then I grabbed, I don't think that, well, there's a can of it somewhere over there in the corner of the shelf, it doesn't matter. It's a rust treatment, you spray it on and you leave it and it changes it. I changed it to a dark black metal and I sprayed that up in there. The metal was solid, I cut it to it had solid metal, then I welded that up in, then I sprayed that up in there. And then I left it, then I got in there with some rust paint and I put some nice rust paint over top of it. And of course the areas where it was going to get pinch welded back, I just left that with the weld through primer. So hopefully you understand what I'm kind of saying here. I should have showed you, but...
No, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Is that
on that shelf,
on the orange?
Very far corner, there's 3 cans of it.
Yeah, the orange label here?
It's right against the wall in the corner.
Rust converter. There we go. Rust converter. Rust check rust converter. Transforms rust. Converts rust to a paintable primer on all metal surfaces. So that's what we use for our rust prevention from having it continue on in places where you can't get into.
Yeah, and when you're cutting a roof like that, I mean, you don't just, you gotta, if this is the rust line right here, this here, you don't just cut right here on the rust line. You gotta grind all this away, which he brought the truck in bare metal anyway, so you could see it. But normally you grind all that away until you find good metal, and then go back even a little bit further. That's what I do. Like some people will be like, okay, it's rusted right to here, so I'm going to cut it right here because I know this metal's good. No, no, no. I usually cut even further back. I make sure because it's too close to where the rust already was. So if this is the rust line, I go at least a ½ an inch back and clean it up with the grinder, make sure it's good. Then I make sure that's good there. And like I say, if that was the underside, I got in there, I wire wheeled it the best I could. I went as far as I could. I blew it all out. I sprayed that shit on it. Then I let it dry for overnight. And then I put a black rust paint on it. And then the piece that goes in where they butt weld together or spot weld together, whatever you want to call it. On those edges, I just use the weld through primer because if you put any kind of paint on there, it's just going to catch on fire and burn off from the heat of the welder, right? Where the weld through primer doesn't. And that's it. That's about the best you can do. And then afterwards, if you want, which we're going to do on that truck because the roof was so rusty, which you could also show over there, we're going to go in through inside the cab. You can go in where the visors go inside the cab. There's holes. Everyone knows that. If you take your sun visor off your car, you got holes in there. And we're going to use a wax treatment. And we got a gun that's got a long spiral thing on it, and it's like beeswax. And you spray it all up in there, and put some paper down outside of your vehicle. Because if there's any little pinholes or anything, it's going to run through there. But you spray that all up in there, when you're all done. But I wouldn't even do that till the bodywork's done. When the truck's all bodyworked and done and finished, spray it up in there. And what that is it's sitting right up there with our gun. It's right above the shelf for you to show the rust treatment. And there's the gun with the long tip, and you can see the wax stuff. That's good for inside a door jam, like inside of doors, everything. Awesome stuff.
Okay.
And it puts like a beeswax on there. And we do that with a lot of the builds where you can't get into areas. You put that stuff in that gun and you pressurize up with some air and you shoot it down in there. But like I say, let's use an example. You're using a door. Wait till you get all the body work done. I would do it after all the body work's done. Open your doors up on the car for the evening. Lay some paper on the ground. Because you've got your little drip holes in the door where water gets out, right? That's normal. Spray that shit in there. Give it a nice good coat. Leave it overnight. The next morning, come out. Whatever dripped on the ground's on your paper. Crumple it up. Throw it in the garbage. Garage floor is clean. Who wants to lay on that shit, right? That stuff goes in there and coats it. And if you've got any kind of bare metal and the water happens to get in there, what does it do? It just repels off it. You know?
Because it's wax.
Even an old trick back in the day too, which we even do it here sometimes. I do it on my own cars to be cheap and nasty. You got some leftover paint. I don't give a shit what color it is. Pink, blue, red, who cares? Leftover paint. You've just welded on your door. You're all done. You've done your body work. Take your leftover paint. And I'm not saying I can, but I'm saying take a little bit of leftover paint like that. Just get in there and pour it like that inside your door. Again, put your paper on the floor. Anything that you might have missed, any kind of pinhole, any area where there's bare metal, what's that paint going to do? It's going to run through there. You've covered it, right? There's all sorts of different ways of doing things. But I like the wax treatment. It's a little less hokey. You know, the paint doesn't matter. Where someone ever pulls the door panel off one day, and they look, oh, he's got red paint poured in here, pink paint poured in here. You know what I mean? Where the wax is fine. So there's all sorts of things. It just depends if you're on a budget or you're not. So if you can't afford to go buy the wax, you got some leftover paint laying around your house, throw it inside your door. Who's ever going to see it unless they take the door panel off? Don't let the naysayers put you down. It's a good thing to do, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
So, we're at 12 minutes on this video.
Holy shit, well, it's always a good time and old time. Got to see you later. Goodbye now. Don't buy a t-shirt, buy a hat, buy whatever you want. That's it. Bye now.